We're going to transition now because I want to make sure we talk about lean law. So
Sure.
you went from law practice to then legal tech founder, which to me seems like a pretty big change. Although it does sound like you had interest in tech, which is makes complete sense, but it's still a massive transition. So, what was the moment or the realization that sparked the idea for lean law?
Well, that's really interesting. I listened to one of your podcasts getting ready for this, and you're going, why is it that we just can't have a all-in-one software that does everything?
You heard that episode. I'm so frustrated by it. It frustrates the hell out of me. But
Yeah, so
but
that's kind of where I started. And even in the early 90s, you probably don't even know what this is, but there's a tool called Lotus Agenda, which was sort of an early practice management type of thing that allowed you to do various things. I mean, I used it for, I made a macro to calendar court deadlines with it. And, so I started back in those days. I mean, I'd taken a computer programming class or two in college, but was
real
pretty
quick
bad
though,
at it.
so will you explain to people what macros mean? Because I don't think a lot of people know what a macro is.
That is a good point. It's a good
Yeah.
point. A macro is kind of a mini computer program within another program. So you write a little bit of specialized instructions so it will do something that it wouldn't otherwise do. Like Excel has lots of macros in it if you know how to use them.
Yeah.
So this was just a version of that. So,
Good
I
that's one of the maybe the best explanations I've ever heard of a macro. So a lot of people, my first firm, they used some macros in some Word documents, and if it was kind of interesting because if the macros didn't work right, your documents were all jacked up. So it's, but anyways, continue on. I did, but I do
yeah,
think it's one of those things where I think it's important. You definitely had some technical expertise. I don't know where you
a
picked that up.
bit. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I understand this stuff conceptually, but I am not quite detail oriented enough to build something that works very well. I mean, AI would be a great help to me if as a coder. So, but fortunately, I have other people to do that now.
Yeah.
So, I'm going all along. I can see this potential for software to make law firms more efficient, and all along I was struck by how crazy inefficient these law firms were. Even the good one I was at in San Diego, they were kind of transparent, and they showed me my top line and my overhead. And I looked at the overhead number and I went, what? It was like 250 grand in 1990. And so I went to my partner and said, hey, we could reduce that overhead a whole lot. Uh, and he goes, it's too much trouble, too hard to save costs. Just focus on the top line. So I'm kind of struggling with all of this. And then you start to see practice management software come out. It's like, finally, this one thing that will do everything. And, we used various versions of it in the firms I worked in. None of them ever worked the way you wanted it to. There is a certain software that will remain nameless that is still a dirty word in my firm. So, so I just kept waiting and going, this is not that hard. In the early 2000s, I kind of made up like a whole requirements list for what I needed an all-in-one software to do. Every function, and I had this vision in my mind, which is actually getting more realistic. The code name was Gladys because it was that perfect assistant who would do everything for you. So you talk about, I heard you talk in your other webinar about or your guest talked about the degradation of the interface layer. And it's like, okay, well, let's just have an assistant that you talk to and say, Gladys, draft me a pleading. And, it would have had to have been pretty hinky in those days. But, it went along that for a long time, and the tech wasn't ready. You didn't really have cloud yet. And I couldn't find the people I needed in Boise, Idaho at that time. And so I did abandon this idea of creating a good all-in-one software in like 2008, 2009. And then a few years later, stuff just started to happen. I had a friend who ran the executive MBA program at Boise State, and he started introducing me to people, and doors started opening. And by about 2014, 2015, we were ready to start a software company. So, that's where Lean Law started. Again, we probably started with the idea we would build a better Clio. But as we got into it, it was like, well, that's too complicated, and so we needed to focus, and the logical place to focus was on the financial side of the firm, and particularly because you have a good SMB foundational program like QuickBooks Online that we could build on top of, because we weren't going to build a better accounting software than QuickBooks. And so we created what we think is the best QuickBooks integration, and sort of made it work for law firms.
So I want to pull up my phone because you mentioned Gladys, and I'm a little, I gotta say, I'm a little mad that you did not build that all-in-one system. I'm a little mad, but I'm gonna let that go for now. But you mentioned Gladys, right? And the reason why I want to pull up my phone is because I want to just play around with ChatGPT, because where we've gone from 2022 to 2025 is amazing. Okay, I don't know if you played around with ChatGPT when it comes to their voice assistant at the beginning versus now. For those of you that have not heard it lately, and we're going to use your scenario where you mentioned creating drafting a pleading. Okay, so just bear with me for a second. Okay, all right. So I need some help drafting an entry of appearance for a case in St. Louis County. Can you help me out with this?
Of course. An entry of appearance is pretty straightforward. Usually you'll just need to include the name of the attorney entering their appearance, the party they're representing, the case caption, and the case number. If you want, you can let me know any specific details and I can help you draft that.
Yeah, so you already have my information because you know a lot about me. So you can go ahead and include my information in the signature line. The case number is 123 ABC.
Got it. I'll put something together for you. It'll look something like this. In the Circuit Court of St. Louis County, Missouri, case number 123 ABC, plaintiff, defendant, entry of appearance. Comes now Tyson Muttrix of Muttrix Firm Injury Lawyers, and hereby enters his appearance as counsel for the plaintiff or defendant in the above captioned matter. Respectfully submitted, Tyson Muttrix, Muttrix Firm Lawyers, 222 Central Ave, Steep 550, Clayton, Mo. 63105, phone 314-20273. You can fill in the plaintiff and defendant names and let me know if you need any changes.
Thanks, appreciate it. So Gladys has gotten pretty darn good over the last few years.
I love that there was an in there.
So that's the part that I wanted to bring in, right? Because it is mind-boggling. I showed it to my kids, or let my kids listen to it, and they're like, they thought I was talking to a real person because it was so good. Now it was a different voice. The voice we just listened to me seems more like an AI. The male voice that I had on it before, we just changed because we were playing around in the car over the weekend with it. But the male voice that we had on there, I can't remember the names. They have really interesting names, but his voice sounds way more natural. It's real, and it's getting kind of creepy. But you mentioned that, and I thought that'd be kind of fun. But so I want to get back to Lean Law though, because you all, it's interesting that at this point You've already helped firms process over $1 billion in legal fees. That's
every
what
year. Yeah,
that's what I
in the
saw.
last 12 months.
In
Yeah,
in the last 12, the last 12 months, a
yeah,
billion dollars.
yeah.
So what is it you'd say that is like it's the core operational problem that you're helping small or mid-sized firms solve?
Well, we're the financial operating system for the law firm. So, with QuickBooks in the background, we integrate with QuickBooks so you can do your timekeeping, invoicing, collections, trust accounting, and reporting all in a very automated way. And we play well with others. That's part of our best-in-class philosophy is, we take advantage of the best that other programs do. So we have a few really great integrations like our QuickBooks integration that allow you to put together a best-in-class technology stack that, we hope one day functions like that all-in-one that you're talking about, but it just happens to be the pieces are made by different companies.